Here I am on the Triumph Daytona 660. As I may have already said, this is a bike, I'll just get my visor up, this is a bike that I was going to buy, and it was between this and the Suzuki, and now I've got both in my possession, and I've done more miles on the Daytona. It's only right to actually do a full comparison to the two, find out whether I made the right choice. Obviously the sort of riding I do involves a lot of this. A little village, come across 30 miles an hour, bumpy old road. Now the suspension on this is pretty damn good. Yeah, it's Showa, but it's not all singing, all dancing Showa. No, it's both front and back. You've got a bit of adjustment on the back, but nothing on the front. And down these little country lanes, you're using a fraction of the 95 brake horsepower or 94 brake horsepower, but the engine is dead smooth. Now, down this road, there are a lot of tree roots going across, and they're really harsh, and on some bikes, even adventure bikes, it really is a thud. But this rode them exceptionally well. This bike is quite short in length, which I think helps making it a bit more nimble. Now, a lot of people have complained about the handling on it. I don't find it any problem. If you're on a track, it might become a problem. So that's about as much as I'm going to say about the handling. It's absolutely fine for what I want. So here we are. We're back into the national speed limit. And this bike's natural playground absolutely loves it down these roads. Now, we have got harvest going on as well, so one thing to consider is the brakes, and on this bike I have absolutely no problem with them. I'm just watching the speed there. I have been quite quickly on this bike, but obviously I'm filming, so you're not going to see any of that. For real world riding, this is absolutely fine. And maybe you can see why it was up there on my list as a potential bike for myself. Would I have one now, having had it a little while? Without a shadow of a doubt. And am I disappointed? Well, you'll have to wait for that result after I've ridden the 8R. The seat height on both bikes is exactly the same. The fun factor on this is very, very high indeed. And then we're back into a 30. Now, the position, without a shadow of a doubt, the Daytona puts you more on your wrist, so it puts me more on my wrists. Is it too much? No, it's not too much. I do find it quite comfortable, but it is noticeably more than on the Suzuki. So for town, villages, things like that, there's absolutely no problem with it. It's comfortable at slow speed and high speed. Now, you can get a quick shifter for it, but this one hasn't got one, and they don't come as standard. I don't know how much they are. They're about £300 or £400. It might be a bit more than that even. Would I have one fitted if I had this? I think so. The engine, that triple engine, is very, very smooth. But it is a revvy bike. Obviously it's got that extra triple. Just 69 Newton meters of torque, which is still quite a lot. And again, for real world riding, more than enough. Buffeting, I'll let you decide on that. I'll do a little blast down here and you can decide what you think of the buffeting compared to the GSX-8R. That's if we ever get up to speed where it becomes a factor. So there you go. I don't think, certainly from a rider's point of view, it's not too much. What you find if you do motovlogging is that that wind and buffeting is exaggerated significantly. So something else I've noticed as well, I'm in sixth gear and it's absolutely happy as Larry. Look at that, down 28 miles an hour. No lurching, nothing like that. And the roll on from the throttle, I'm in fifth there, just a nice gentle roll on up to the speed limit, into sixth, and it's just very, very smooth. And no problem on the corners. So yeah, so what I'll do now is I will cut to a walk round of both bikes so you can see them side by side, and then I'll get on the Suzuki. I'll see you shortly.
Right, so here we are, both bikes side by side, and on looking at this you can see that the Suzuki's looks an awful lot longer than the Daytona, but let's go through the Daytona first. So the fairing's very different. This one is much shorter in the nose and with the twin headlamps. That's more familiar to us all. Twin brakes on the front, Triumph, so not Brembo or anything like that. That wonderful triple engine which puts out 95 brake horsepower or thereabouts, 94 I think it actually is, and 69 Newton meters of torque. The foot position, oh, someone's popping the horn. Foot position, very comfortable, sporty, with low handlebars, and they are lower than the Suzuki. Seat height 810 millimeters, so sort of average really. It's got a hugger on the back to try and keep some of that dirt down, a small back seat for the pillion, and the rear foot pegs not that high really for as far as pillions go, so should be alright for Mrs. Tame. Single rear brake of course, Showa rear suspension, mono of course, upside down Showa forks on the front, but at the bottom end of Showa, I would say. But the suspension on it seems to be just absolutely fine. From the cockpit, a 14 litre tank, which is plenty, and that's the view you get from the cockpit. Yeah, all the controls, everything dead easy to use on it. Let's go on to the Suzuki. Obviously a bigger engine, but less brake horsepower. It produces only just 84 brake horsepower, so a good 10 less brake horsepower, but it makes up for that with the torque, by having an extra 9-10 Newton meters of torque, around about 78. Yeah, fairing slightly longer in the nose, more pointed, but these stacked headlamps, which not everybody likes. Now both these bikes are dirty, I'm afraid, because I've been using them. Nissan brakes on the front, twin. Foot pegs, as you can see, if you see them both together, perhaps slightly lower on the Suzuki, giving a bit more leg room. And in fact, I would say roughly all round, the Suzuki feels like a bigger bike, even though the seat height is 8'10". Obviously I've got a rack on this one, and the pannier rails clip on there, so that might distract from it, but no hugger as standard, so I do need to get a hugger for that. And the view from the cockpit you've seen plenty of times, it's just lovely. Sports bike handlebars slightly higher than they are on the Daytona, which again makes it slightly more relaxed from the riding point of view. But I think that's about it to look at. The seat height, as I said, 8'10", exactly the same as the Daytona. So if you're worried about seat height on one or the other, there's nothing to choose between them. So yeah, I've got a slightly bigger screen, it's tinted and slightly higher, but let's get back on the bikes and have another little bit of a mutter.
So straight away, jumping from one to the other, I would have to say that initially the Daytona feels more comfortable. That's principally because this bike is bigger, there's more room there. The Daytona seems to hold you a bit more, and the seat is a little bit softer, but over time that softness, hardness, it changes, doesn't it? Sometimes a hard seat ends up being more comfortable than a soft seat, but there you go, there's not a lot to choose between them. The dash, this one is much clearer to look at, but of course the main thing, the main difference that you'd notice as soon as you get on is how much smoother that Daytona is at low speed. As soon as you get on, you can tell this is a twin, and it's that 70 degree crank. But you also notice that this has so much more grunt, more torque. Hey up, we've got a car reversing. Oh, brilliant. the Daytona handles those tree roots much better than the Suzuki. And the Suzuki's not bad, but it is quite a jar. But that could be, I suppose, the way that I've got the Suzuki set up behind. I don't know, and everyone will feel differently about it, and different weights. Obviously at low speed it's a breeze. Is it as easy as the Daytona? They're different, because, and that is simply the setup on the engine. This has got more get up and go, I would say, from the off, and that 10 brake horsepower difference feels, and I'm not saying that it is, that would equate to acceleration or speed, but that 10 extra newton meters of torque appears to by far make up more than the lack of brake horsepower. And of course, the other thing that you will notice on the Suzuki straight away is the quick shifter and the difference that makes. It makes it much smoother to go through the gears, and living up to its name, much quicker. Yeah. Now, the handling and the brakes, it could be because I am more used to the Suzuki, having done 3 times the mileage at least. And now we're stuck behind a car. Yeah, having done a lot more mileage, I think the Suzuki has it. Yeah, I feel much more comfortable. The bike, actually, when you get into it and you're going, feels a much more accomplished bike. And that's not saying that the Daytona isn't. It's horses for courses, I think. And this Suzuki just feels a more grown-up bike. Now, you might not be looking for a more grown-up bike. It is smooth. Once you're moving, it's as smooth as the triple of the Daytona. For 2 reasons. One, you've got a quick shifter, but Suzuki have this twin balancing system that they've put on it just to keep it smooth, and they haven't overdone it. You know, it almost feels like a V engine, and the torque behaves like it's a V as well. The quick shifter is both up and down as well, which is, and it works pretty well. Very often on the downshift, I've found quick shifters to be quite lumpy, and this one is probably one of the better ones. Yeah, I've learned to use it more. So, of course, what we don't get on the Suzuki is self-cancelling indicators. And I've got to say, I really like that about the Daytona. I really do. I never thought, you know, I'd think, well, you can switch them off. But of course, we very often, well, I very often forget. Concentrating on the road, you don't see it. The buffeting as well. There's not a huge amount in it. What you hear is not necessarily what I hear, because the microphone, like I say, the microphone is quite sensitive. So let's give it a go. And I mean, this bike just flies. Once you get over that sort of 40, 50, it is very quick. Not that you'd necessarily want it, but it is fun to play with. It's got plenty of brake horsepower, even though it's 10 short of its competitors. It's got a lot more torque, which is a lot of fun. It's got the quick shifter. You can fit to other bikes, so it's not a deal breaker. What's quite incredible is the price. So the Suzuki, I think they're listing now at about 8,800. You might be able to get a deal, but I doubt it, because there's not many of them in the country at the moment. They've all been sold, and blue being one of the most popular colours. The Triumph you can get for about £8,200 now, so you can put a quick shifter on it for less money than you're paying for the Suzuki. They are very tightly matched, despite their engine size difference and their brand difference. They are very, very closely matched. Now I'm in fourth, and I'm going to do the roll on from fourth because I've got the quick shifter, because it doesn't make no difference. The handling, I have no problems with the Daytona. Oh, Harleys. But I do think that the Suzuki is slightly better. But for your average riding, it isn't going to make much difference to you, I don't think. So, did I make a mistake getting the Suzuki? I don't think so. If I'd got the Daytona, would I be disappointed? No, I wouldn't. There are two bikes that I think at the moment, and I don't think it will last, are exceptional value for money. I think that the price will go up. You might get a deal on in winter when the dealers are desperate just to sell anything. But there you go, a comparison between the two. I hope you've liked this video, and I will catch you in another